Here we go. Here we go. Turn my volume down as soon as we come on. Two, one. Let's do it. Let's do it. Are we good, Lee? Where are we going? I don't see us on the air. Are we on the air? Are we on the air? Post-COVID? Post-COVID, post-Super League. COVID is a whole other matter. Post-Super League announcement. And Arsenal's future is clear as mud. Welcome to the latest edition of the Daily Gooner podcast here on the Sports Talk Live Network. I'm Raphael. I don't have COVID, thank God. None of us have COVID, thank God. But we are concerned about Arsenal's future. Joined by my usual suspect cohorts to my right, Sam. Welcome, Sam.
Hello, mate. Hope you're well.
I am well, and below me is Ryan. Welcome back, Ryan.
Hello,
Welcome back, Ryan.
Hope you're well.
Oh, good. I'm good. And right above me to my left is Jacob Weeks, joining us again in the fourth chair. Welcome, Jacob.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
All right, so topics this week. Massive match for Arsenal in 2 days against Villarreal, kicking off leg one of the Europa League semifinals in Spain. But first, and really most of this show will be dedicated to the topic of the moment. Is KSE selling? Is KSE not? Again, as I said at the beginning, there's lots of contradictory evidence out there, lots of contradictory stories. Some of them are fresh, just hours, 1, 2, 3 hours old. What do we know at this point? Certainly in the last 24 hours, it came out yesterday that Daniel Ek, one of the co-founders of Spotify, multi-billionaire co-owner of, or massive investor in that company, is put a consortium together to make a bid for KSE. And what got everybody's attention is that he got 3 former Invincibles to join him: Patrick Vieira, Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry. And some noise today. Sam, I'm going to bring you in. Just about an hour ago, KSE issued a contradictory statement saying that they have no intention of selling. There's kind of people pushing back from both sides. Another story saying it doesn't matter. The Egg Group is going to go forward. Arsene Wenger came in the last hour, said some very cryptic quote that you can interpret a variety of ways. If I can help Arsenal in any way, I can. Which of these options is the most? Are we seeing an open negotiation? Is this like the posturing for a transfer of a player between the agent and the team in the press? What do you think is going on here?
I think it's exactly that. I think there's too much smoke without any fire. You look at the reliable journalists that are reporting the interest in Arsenal from Elk. I think that the way that everything is with KSE today come out with their perceived power play, speaking from a position of strength to say, look, we've got no intention of selling. It's not something that we're looking at doing. But then you've got Ek, who's going to be doing a talk on one of the American channels. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but
it's MS. No, it's NBC. It's the financial one.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's going to be picked up by Sky
FNBC.
Sports.
Yeah,
that's going to be picked up by Sky Sports News. So no doubt there's going to be some talk around the interest there. I think it, as you say, I think it's an open negotiation within the public, and I think it's a case of they're both pushing back at each other, but ultimately, I do believe this is going to be going ahead, because reading some tweets earlier, this is the way that Eck conducts his business in the public eye. He apparently says that he's interested, wants a company, and then obviously that drives up the interest around that, especially with Arsenal. We all want Kroenke out, so the interest is already there. I think him getting the Invincibles on board with that as well, that's a massive power play for him, because that's something that KSE has never really done. And Wenger's statement today, it was, as you say, it was cryptic, but I think given his close relationship to the players, I think that he knows something that we don't personally.
Okay, Ryan, I'm going to bring you in here because I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I think there's another way to interpret this, which is, KSE is digging in. There is a major article in The Athletic this morning citing several financial sources, people who have conducted transactions, the transfers of clubs rather than players, saying that none of them think that the KSE has an incentive to sell. But let's play it both ways. If they are planning to sell, it would be in their best interest to do exactly what they said, say we're not selling. It would be exactly in their best interest to do what Josh Kroenke did last week. He faced the arrows from the fan groups, and he took the hard questions, because he does not want to talk down the club. And if he's in the process of selling, he does not want to diminish the value of the club. Okay. But there's another element that really complicates this thing here, which is the window, whether Arsenal win Europa League or not. This is a vital window coming up. They have to turn over. They have to get talent. And I think the concern for a lot of people looking at this is, if it's going to happen, it needs to happen quickly, because you don't want to be in the process of having to turn over a manager and certainly bring in a new set of eyes, a new technical director or director of football at the beginning of a window when so much is in deal, because that scuttles deals you might have in play already. And Arsenal can't afford to mess up the timing of this. So what do you take from all this mess?
Unfortunately, from the way I'm looking at it, is I don't think they'll sell before the start of next season. I think they'll go through this window. I think, as there's been reports today that Josh spoke to the staff at the club staff in a Zoom call and reiterated that he's going to make transfer funds available. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to invest in the team. And if we do win Europa and we can manage to get Champions League, they invest heavily and we suddenly become a Champions League side again. And if they invest nicely, they invest in the right players, get the players that Arteta wants, and we start performing again, we start challenging. Right now, we're the 8th most valuable club in the world, and we are piss poor at the moment, to put it lightly. So if we're performing well, we've got the talent, we've got the commercial value. After the pandemic, we're just going to skyrocket. The value of the club is just going to go up and up. And I think that's what they're waiting for. I think they'll invest this summer, and they know this investment this summer will double, triple if they sell at the right time.
If they do, and they do it right. Now, I'm gonna, Jake, I'm gonna give you a comment that I said to these gentlemen in a private group when Josh Kroenke went before on the Zoom call before the fans last week, and he said, "We plan on investing. We have a plan on investing." If you recall, the day before, there's so much that's compressed in this, but the day before, Mikel Arteta had gone forward and he made a statement that made it look like he was very critical of ownership, saying, the game belongs to the fans. The game is the fans. And a lot of people thought like, oh, he's throwing Stan under the bus. But I think he was using that as leverage because, if they say we're going to invest and they don't sell, they have no choice but to invest. If they go cheap and they play, well, we didn't make win Europa League. We're not in Champions League. I think the argument is, well, then you need to invest more in that case because you've got to overcome that to get us in. But I was telling them, Mikel Arteta has these guys over a barrel now because he knows he's going to push his list of favorite players. He goes, this is not tier 1, tier 2. These are the guys I want, and I want you to buy them for me. And he has a get out because I think one of the chairs of Barcelona about a month ago was saying when he was up for elections, I would like to bring Mikel Arteta in. And of course, Arteta squashed that. But he has that as a safety valve. You know, if he comes out and he says, Josh Kroenke was lying to me and he was lying to you when he said this, they really don't have an intention of doing it. Then what we saw last week before the Everton game is going to be a small, you know, like a brush fire compared to the bonfire that will erupt at that point.
Yeah, to be honest, I think this situation as fans is win-win. Because yeah, either we're going to get new owners who should invest or are promising to invest, and obviously he is a fan and he's got credible names behind him. So either we're getting that, or KSE are under pressure from everybody to invest. You know, they promised it now. The fans are on their back. They know they're on their back. So yeah, Arteta definitely has leverage. And as Ryan said, if they do want to increase the value of the club, then there's only one way to do it, is to get us back into the top competitions. So yeah, as fans, win-win. If we're getting new owner and new money, or we're getting money from the people who are already owners. But I think it's a very good situation for us to be in to go forward.
All right, Sam, let's talk about this. Not necessarily player names. We'll get to that because the window's coming up. But let's talk about need as far as position. How much do you think this would cost? Again, whether they get into Europa, whether they win Europa, or whether they don't win Europa, whether they're in Champions League or not, there's a certain floor of money of spending they need to hit regardless, because it's just a matter of, as Ryan said, they've got to raise the base talent level. They've got to raise the depth of this club. What is this project going to cost? And how many players do you think it's going to require in this window to take that next significant step, not just a baby step?
I think in terms of cost, you'll probably look for this window, the cost of this window could be up to 300 million. But if you look at it realistically, it's probably going to be half of that, so about 150, maybe 175. In terms of players this window, I'd probably say you need a goalkeeper to challenge or replace Leno. I would say that you need a right back, a backup left back, a backup CDM, a central midfielder, getting Ødegaard on board, possibly 1 or 2 new strikers as well. So it's quite a hefty shift around. That's not including getting rid of all the duds that are in this team as well. So you can
name names. There you can name names. Who would you say you're done here?
I wouldn't bring back Ceballos. Xhaka would probably go into a backup option. Get rid of El Neni. David Luiz from 50-50 about. I'd probably keep him on. But with that, I'd say to him, you're going to be going into a coaching role. So your playing time won't be prominent. There's, to be honest, Raf, there's too many in this team to go through them individually to say he needs to go. What's the name? It's ridiculous. You can make arguments about Aubameyang going. You can definitely make arguments about Lacazette going, but again, you're going to leave yourself exceptionally short. So, in terms of the squad, it's basically, I'd say a good 75% of the squad needs overhauling.
But Ryan, 75% is not a realistic. I mean, Wenger in his heyday said, ideally, you don't want to bring in more than, say, maybe 4 because that's too much turnover. But it seems Arsenal in this case have no choice, right? They need a massive turnover. even with all the dud veterans that left in January, there's still a lot of dead wood on this roster. We see them every week, that every time this manager tries to give his starters, his core starters, significant rest, and he sits 2 or 3 of them down, it all falls apart. We saw it on the weekend against Everton.
Yeah, absolutely. And when Arteta came in, you both remember when we was doing this, we said he's going to need 2 summers to get this club the way it should be. But we didn't take into consideration COVID was going to happen. So then we had that kind of summer. We couldn't get rid of the duds that we wanted to. So it's going to take another 2 summers because, as you said, we're not going to overhaul 75% of the squad in one window. I don't think there's many players in our team that are gaining that much of an interest to be like, oh yeah, go, just take whatever offer. I don't think we're in a position to do that. So I think we just need to get the core of the players that we want this summer, and then next summer just try and work something out with others. I think this summer we could see 100 million in sales easily.
Okay, but quickly, position. Sam gave about half a dozen positions that he targeted for that need upgrading. They need a second, a rotational player, or need a quality starter. Where do you put those numbers? And just in positionally?
I think with goalkeeper, I think we can survive with what we have at the moment. If we keep Ryan, that is, on another loan or whatever, or a goalkeeper on loan. Definitely need a right back. Definitely need a central midfielder. Definitely need to keep Odegaard. Definitely need a backup left back, and we definitely need another striker, a different type of striker to what we have. I think they're the 5 that are like key to this summer.
All right, Jacob, I'm gonna give you a similar question, but I'll put a slight twist on it because Arsenal has sent a lot of young English players on loan, and they have a lot of young English players on their side. Obviously, they got to keep homegrown quotas in mind. But let's look at 3 players who are often discussed as being sold or loaned this summer. Let's start with the ones on the squad. Let's talk about Eddie Nketiah. Let's talk about Reece Nelson. And then let's look to the ones that went on loan. Ainsley Maitland-Niles and the guy who's really been doing it the last couple of weeks for Newcastle, Joe Willock. Of those 4, how do you handle them in this window? Which ones you say, okay, you've had enough time, and which ones do you say, maybe another loan, and which ones you say, oh, we definitely got to get you back?
I think the only one really worth looking at in more detail, whether that's extending and giving a loan to or bringing back in for a few months and reassessing January, is Willock. He's, we knew what he was about. We knew he could score goals. I'm still not necessarily convinced that he is going to fit into Arteta's system the way other players will. But he's the only one really that I wouldn't want to sell just yet. The likes of Nketiah and Nelson and Maitland-Niles as well out on loan. He's doing all right, but I just don't see a future for him. I think they're ones who, particularly being young and English and have Premier League experience, could be good money raisers for the rest of the squad.
Okay, Sam, I'm going to let you kind of take some of that. Are there any of these players that Jacob thinks, well, first off, do you agree with him? And I guess the primary question is, what do you do with Joe Willock? And of players like Reece Nelson or Eddie Nketiah, might they be used as make weights in attempts to bring in bigger players at their positions or at other positions?
Yeah, no, I agree with what Jacob's just said. It's just a case of, again, with Willock, it's where he fits into the system. If Willock can improve the possession play within his game, then yeah, I reckon he can. But in regards to Eddie Nketiah, I think that he's going because he's going to have 1 year left on his contract, and we need to get rid of him this summer. I'd probably say Brighton would be a good destination for him, to be honest, because they get into a lot of good positions, but they haven't got that goal poacher within their squad. So I think him being that essentially would suit them down to a T. Ainsley's made his bed, basically. He wants to play in midfield. I don't think that he's going to be coming back. I don't think that he's good enough to play in midfield for Arsenal. And in regards to Reece Nelson, I like Reece. I like that he has good games for us, but then he goes missing for like 5 to 8 games late with some sort of niggling injury. If he can grow out of that, then yeah, brilliant. I'd quite happily keep him here, but I would possibly say to loan him for 6 months if he is playing consecutively, then reevaluate it. But if not, then be looking to sell.
Okay, now let me stay with you, and I'm going to bring this one around the horn because let's bring in one name. We don't have time to go position by position by position, but you're talking about striker. I mean, it's pretty clear that one of the, they just signed Aubameyang to a big extension. Lacazette, if you read between the lines, it's not very hard to do. Seems the manager keeps saying no in a very diplomatic way to an extension. Keeps saying we're going to deal with this at the end of the season. As you said, Eddie probably is going to go, but they just signed Balogun to an extension this week. You've been saying that, you guys have been reporting it on our Twitter feed for weeks, and it's finally been official. It was sometime late in the week. So he's going to be part of that rotation. But you guys have been discussing Arsenal's missing that big presence in the box, the real physical, possible target man with some height, who doesn't get muscled around. I think that's one of the disappointments we have of Eddie Nketiah. He's not very strong in the box. He's easy to knock off his feet, and big defenders will kind of ping pong him. You guys have singled out a name, and he keeps coming up. So we're going to share it with everybody else. Who are you looking for to fill that role?
Yeah, I'm looking at Weghorst from Wolfsburg. I think with him, he's a very intelligent striker. People will probably point to he's similar to Giroud. I'd have to disagree with people on that, because Giroud is very much a striker that will play in front of the defenders. But with Weghorst, he takes up positions just off the shoulder. So again, he's still playing on the last man, but when it's out wide, he plays on the last man, but he will drift to the front defender of the two. And if the ball then gets played in, he will go off the blind side of the defense and pick up a really smart and intelligent position. So with that, it's difficult for defenders to mark him unless they're literally running around in circles with him, essentially. But I think that he will give us a different option. Obviously, we see a lot of crosses coming into the box,
right?
And
nobody there to put him away, or almost never need somebody there to put him away. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, I think that's the type of striker that we need. Obviously, signing Balogun to a new deal that we've reported for months, probably since the end of January. That gives us, and it's actually saved Arsenal, a host of money in regards to replacing Lacazette. But with that as well, it gives us that striker that's willing to go behind, that more complete striker. People will point to Martinelli as well. I don't think Martinelli will be used as a striker. I think that he'll be used as a left-sided attacker. So not exactly a winger, but in the left forwards channel. So in terms of up front, if we were to bring Weghorst in, I think that we will literally be sorted as a front line and have the depth and rotation and different options, and that's something that we've really missed.
All right, and I love this because Sam has Weghorst, and Ryan, you've been promoting a guy who's doing some big work in the championship, and you've been chatting him up for quite some time. Who's your candidate to fill that big striker role?
Well, I mean, Sam was the one that brought.
That is true. Sam's
his
got
name
them both.
He plays for my local team, so obviously I knew who he was before. But Sam really told me, watch this guy. Don't watch the game. Watch the player. And I watched his game against Bournemouth on Saturday, and he was just unbelievable. Ivan Toney, he got man of the match, and Brentford were down to 10 men. He dragged them to that win. He literally put the team on his shoulders. It was like, we are not losing. We are winning this game. He was holding the ball up. He was running in behind. He was defending in his box. He was blocking shots. He was doing everything. And I don't know if it'll go down as an assist, but his run and shot set up the goal that they scored. So the only thing missing from that performance was a goal. He was unbelievable, and he's 6 foot plus. He's fast, and he's got everything he's just a complete package. So, and he's homegrown, which helps.
That was going to be my question for you, Jacob. I mean, obviously, Arsenal need to be mindful of homegrown players. So, these guys have mentioned there's Ivan Toney, but if they're keeping Willock, they still probably need to bring at least one other player. Are you looking to, keepers mentioned as a position where Arsenal might look for a homegrown player. Right back is mentioned too. There's some English options there. Is there anybody you're looking at that you're eyeing and say, this is my guy who can check the box, improve his position, and keep those quotas filled?
Yeah, I think some of the positions they've already listed as potential places to bring people in. Good ones to have homegrown players would be left back. We know there's a couple of cheap players going around, experienced players in the likes of Bertrand and Van Aanholt. Both potentially could do a role for us there. Right back, yeah. Obviously, the name that has been linked a few times and everyone's hoping for isn't homegrown in Hakimi, but there's some very, very good homegrown options in Max Aarons, etc., who I'm a big fan of personally. And I think goalkeeper has to be a homegrown player. I think it's crazy that we've got 3 non-homegrown goalkeepers. For players who aren't getting much pitch time, they really need to be helping us in squad quotas as well, not taking up spaces for good quality outfield players who are going to get more minutes. Goalkeeper linked with particularly last summer, dried up a little bit in the links, but David Raya, I think it'd be great competition for Leno.
All right, and Sam, I'm going to give you the final word on him because that's another name that you brought up from all the other options is David Raya. I guess he was considered last summer as well.
Yeah, he was. Obviously, a lot of people last year will point out to his mistake in the playoff final for Brentford, but ultimately he's a brilliant player, and I think if Arteta wants a ball playing goalkeeper as well, he fits the bill to a T. I actually think if he was to come to Arsenal or move to a better side, he would probably replace Leno as the number one over a year and a half span, in my opinion, because I think he's just got that capacity to really push on. At the moment, he's performing to a level, but if he's in a better side, I think that he'll kick on another 2-3 levels. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him and to see what happens with Brentford. I think if they don't come up, if we offered them, say, a 50 million double deal for Raya and Ivan Toney, I think they'd jump at that, because 50 million for them in the Championship to reinvest in players in a lower league, it'd be gold dust to them.
Yeah. All right, and of course they just got a lot of money on. I'm sorry, you were going to say something. Come on in.
Yeah, I was just going to say 50 million, maybe a bit too much. I would add Rico Henry in that, the left back.
Mm-hmm.
He's homegrown as well. And I'll be like 50 million all free. Come along.
Okay, I was just going to mention Ollie Watkins, but they did really good business on him too. So, yeah, they're producing quality players. Ryan, since you're on tap here, we've got to talk about it. It's coming up in 2 days, leg 1 at Villarreal against Villarreal. This is a Jekyll and Hyde club that we follow. They have a really frustrating game, as they did in the first leg against Slavia Prague. Then they come back and on the road of all places and play maybe their best match of the season. They had another stinker against Everton where they should have won and just coughed it away as they have so many times, belying your line. Arsenal, for most of the time, the other team doesn't beat Arsenal. Arsenal beats Arsenal. But here they are again. You would think this is the dip. This is the one they're due to come up. They're on the road again. They seem, for all their warts, they seem to respond to pressure, and they're under pressure again. What do you look for on Thursday?
So I watched Villarreal against Barcelona at the weekend, doing my scouting as I usually do. And they lined up in a 4-4-2 with Gerard Moreno and Paco Alcácer up front. I'm going 4-3-3. I'm packing out that midfield, and we're getting Odegaard the ball as much as possible, and we're feeding the front three. And from what I've been hearing, Aubameyang is sweating on his availability because with malaria he lost so much weight, and he was looking unhealthy. So he's having to regain there. So I don't think he'll be available. I don't think Lacazette's going to be available. And there's absolutely no chance I'm starting Eddie and Nketiah. So I think this is the game for either Martinelli through the middle, or I'd even go Balogun. There's no need to play Eddie now. If Balogun's signed, he gets the minutes, develop the player you've invested in. So I'd put Balogun there with Pepe and Saka on the wings, or Smith Rowe on the wing.
As we know, Mikel Arteta's been rewarded by pushing the youngsters up. Like we thought, what are you doing with Saka at left back? Worked superbly. And then when it was time to put Smith Rowe in, he put him into the right place and he produced. And then wherever he moves Saka, that works. So as you said, maybe this is the time. He needed to sign the contract, but maybe now this is the reward. This is the time for Balogun. What kind of play? We hear about it. We hear about him. Not all of us watch the under 23s. Like, what does he offer that, say, Lacazette and Nketiah don't?
I think Sam would be more
You want to tackle that
knowledgeable on Balogun than me, but I'll give it a go. I think with Balogun, he's a mix of both of them. He's the goal poacher. He'll be at the front post, ready for the cross to come in, and he's that kind of striker. But he's very good with his back to goal. I watched his interview. He said after he signed, he did the interview, and he said that he's learning his trade as an attacker, not a striker. So I think he's very well rounded in that regard.
Okay, so Jacob, with all those changes, I mean, it's the one change I think we all love. We're not going to get it, not in this match. Maybe in the second leg, but certainly not in the first leg. We're not going to get Kieran Tierney at left back. So we're looking at one more match with Granit Xhaka at left back. I think Mikel's not going to risk Cedric over there, not with so much at stake. He's having to do the work. What are your concerns? How would you line them up in the back? Because there's been some shakiness in the back with Leno, with Xhaka, with Gabriel. Each of them seems to have their turn at making us wince, to put it kindly.
Yeah, I've seen comments on social media that they want to change Xhaka at left back, particularly after this weekend, but I just think he still offers us the most balance in that position right now. The only other player who could offer us balance is Saka, and no one wants to take him out of an attacking position. So if we are playing Xhaka there, I think I would go with Mari next to him, just because Gabriel, as much as I like him, and I do think he is our best defender, Gabriel Tierney's pretty solid. If you get someone running at Xhaka one-on-one, we saw on the weekend where his liability is. So I would have Mari next to him, just a bit more positionally aware, not going to push onto the player as much. And then next to him, I think Mari and Holding have played together a fair bit, so I'm going with him. And then I think right back's the big call there. I think
that's a tough one for bad reasons, right? Or for
I think right now, I think Chambers has the position, and I think you just stick with him. Bellerin has barely been played. Cedric, I could be wrong. I don't think he's played at right back since he got dropped from left back, has he?
I don't think so. No.
No. So right now Chambers has the position, so I don't think you change it up. But yeah, we got 3 of them, and we're not sure really who to choose. So it probably tells you all it needs to.
All right, Sam, we're going to move to the midfield. Ryan said he would go 4-3-3. Would you Would you agree with that? Would you go 4-2-3-1? And who's your midfield 3 of Xhaka's playing at left back? And how do you assemble them? How would you utilize them?
See, I'd stay in the 4-2-3-1 if Odegaard can complete last 90 minutes. But you're taking Xhaka away from me. But I want to be controversial, and I'm going to put him back in midfield.
Okay.
And I'll explain that in a minute. But in terms of the players there, I'd go Xhaka, Partey, and Odegaard as the 3. And with left back, I would actually put Saka back there and have Martinelli on the left-hand side, because them two have got a really good synergy together. And we see that at the back end of last year, and I think that they can pick up where they left off last time.
So Pepe on the right.
Yeah.
Who's your strikers? Are you going with Balogun as well? It seems like what choice do you have?
Yeah, I would go with Balogun, because I think that he gives a lot that Eddie just simply can't do. And I think that as well, if Villarreal are doing their scouting and their squad planning, they haven't really planned for Balogun. They'll plan for Eddie. Like knows Eddie off the back of his hand. But in terms of Balogun, I'm not so sure. So that could be our surprise factor.
Okay, let's do round. Can Arsenal get the win in this leg? And what's your prediction?
I think so. I think I'll go with 3-1.
Okay, Ryan, give us a little summation. How do you see this unfolding, and how do you see it ending? Leg 1.
I think it's going to be a very open game. We know with Unai, we're going to have about 50 shots on his goal, so we're bound to score one of them. I would hope.
You sure?
You never know.
Give me a score. What do you think?
1-0 to Arsenal.
1-0. Okay, and that's a good historical Arsenal score. Jacob, what do you think?
I'm going 1-0 as well. I don't think it'll be quite as open. I think that's partly because we're going to have to remain compact with some of the limitations we got, but we have been better on the road. So I think it will be a win, but it'll be a cagey 1-0.
I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to say 2-1. Again, as Ryan said, we know from the end game of Unai Emery, his squads were giving up lots of shots. I can see Arsenal pressing forward and putting lots of shots on the goal, but I see 2 of them going in, not just 1. But on the flip side, given our frailties in the back line, I see us giving up 1. So we're unanimous. I mean, regardless of the result, Arsenal's coming home with a road goal, and they're ahead on the aggregate tally. I take that. Gentlemen, final words, anything, KSC, so much mud in the water right now. Sam, what do you look for the next week? I'm looking for a win and some sanity as an Arsenal fan. These last 9 days have been insane.
Yeah, I'll take a bit of sanity. Obviously, I'll take the win as well. I think it'll be interesting what Elk's talk tomorrow is going to be. So I'm going to look at that with positive eyes and go from there.
Okay, Ryan, what do you hope for? What do you think is going to happen?
Just more focus on the football rather than what's happening outside of it, because I've completely forgotten Arsenal played for the last 2 weeks. So I'd like to see Arsenal win and some good news off the pitch.
Okay, Jacob, you get the final word this week.
Yeah, I just want to see some positivity, positivity around an Arsenal win in a European semi-final. And yeah, I'm interested to see what the talk is tomorrow. But, I just want to see some positivity after all the Super League fallout and protests and that.
Okay, well, again, we thank you all for joining us here on Daily Gooner video pod, although the video seems to be a little dodgy today, but you can hear us and you can hear all these gentlemen's great insights. Follow us on Twitter at Daily Gooner Pod. On Twitter, Sam is at Daily Gooner Sam. Ryan's at Daily Gooner Ryan. Jacob, you want to share yours again with the faithful?
Yeah, Jacob Weeks, SHU.
All right, and I'm at Cowboys Nation 1 with the numeric sign 1. Again, we thank you. We appreciate you. Come back and join us next Tuesday. Hopefully we'll have some clarity in the ownership situation, and we'll have a win in Europa League to celebrate. So for Jacob, for Ryan, and for Sam, I'm Raphael. We bid you a good night. Sign us out, Maestro. Is that a Carlsberg?
Yeah. Always got to sneak one in on the week.
Well, it matches your top. I noticed that.
Try and blend it in.
We're still live.
I know we're still live, but it's okay. We can chat with our. Is there anybody in the chat? Come and talk to us in the chat. Hello, Lee.
3 people in the chat is probably us 3.
There's still 4 people watching, so okay.
It's
Hello.
probably us 4.
It could be. I don't know. Where did they go? I need to send them in Discord. Hey, buddy, we're done. Such a crazy world.
Did you guys see the matey that fell off the box office?
Oof, yeah, disgusting.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think people should be sharing it, to be honest. It's no.
I haven't seen the actual injuries, but I saw, paramedics around him and everything. I was like, yeah, that's all I need to see. That's
Yeah, that weren't nice.
Oh yes, I heard about it. I thought, I'm not watching this. I'm not watching this. I don't need that. Hello. One more message. Help us out here.
be typical for Ryan now to not realize we were live and drop the source name.